All right, it is time to have the debate. We now are seeing what 5.6 Sol coming out of OpenAI can do in terms of coding, and arguably for the cost for the compute, we have a new winner, but Fable 5 still seems like the more capable model if money's not the constraint. But it's very debatable. Do you want like an hour of some, agent group churning on a problem with 5.6, or do you want 15 minutes of Fable 5 and which one's better there? But we're going to talk about the entire landscape because it is completely heating up right now. Gemini 3.5 Pro is being assessed by the government, and Google is no sleeper, and they have an interesting way that they're vertically connected. So I'll move the conversation to who really is going to be the leader, because there's a small chance when it comes to alignment that whoever's an inch ahead becomes a foot ahead, becomes a mile ahead, becomes infinitely far ahead. And there are some reasons to think that Elon Musk is absolutely going to take that, because there's a certain robotics element, a certain data element that is just very different than the other companies have. But if that is the route, and I would say, in my opinion, probably in last place is Zuckerberg. However, when you really think about a B2C play and the customers themselves, the actual regular people in the world starting to build the new infrastructure because everybody's leveraging intelligence, there's a way that that ends up actually being the big winner too. So I'm going to kind of break it down, share some thoughts, and we will have the battle. Zuck, Elon, Dario, Sam, and Sundar. But first, excited to introduce you to the sponsor of this video, Chat LLM by Abacus AI. This is an entire sandbox little universe where I am not logged into anything. It does not have low-level access to the computer that I use every day. It already includes all of the different models I could even dream to jump between. The current state-of-the-art GPT 5.5 and Claude Opus 4.8, along with Gemini's best model 3.1 Pro, a bunch of various other models, and even a smart router. I mean, look at this. You can even deploy OpenClaw to a supercomputer. So now you get the power without the risk. And it's not just the coding models. You also can generate images and video and speech. So Nano Banana Pro, Seed Dance 2.0. Oh my gosh. Look, is that a Grimlock? Oh, sick. Please tell me that's a T-Rex transformer. What? That's you. So you get your choice between the best models. You can see VO over here, or image editing with GPT, Flux, Topaz upscaling. It is all included in one place. And it has browser use, because remember, this is like its own little computer. So I'll click try now. Open LinkedIn, find 20 CEOs of SV tech companies and send a connection request. Submit to agent. I get this interface, which is super comfortable. It looks like just like everything I have with Gemini and Claude and ChatGPT. Chat's on the left here, my projects. And look at what we have here. So we have an entire computer with its own web browser. And look, my mouse is now inside of this computer. My personal data isn't in this computer. So you can get started for only $7 a month and then $10 monthly after that. And of course, lots more to explore potentially in the future. But if you found this tool useful and you sign up, if you wouldn't mind using the referral code in the description below, you get $5 for each friend I refer. But I really think it's a great product. All right, let's go for the debate. This is something I would love to hear your comments in the messages below. But I've got my thoughts. I definitely cannot predict the future, and I could totally see this playing out completely different. And each day I'm kind of thinking about this too, so I'll try to update it. But as of right now, there's potentially some big Chinese models. There might be something at the DOJ behind the government veil that I'm unaware of. But here in the US, we do have 5 sort of major groups that have sort of consolidated different types of power. They're pretty much all fighting on all fronts. Almost every one of these companies is now building a custom TPU or CPU or GPU or whatever they need to make these things work. They each have their own R&D departments. In some cases, they're sort of going off on their own. And even the ones that are in the background, like Marissa Marati's company or Straight Shot Superintelligence, I don't know. I feel like these are $1 trillion companies. Those are $100 billion companies. And don't get me wrong, they might jump ahead, but these are the main 5 that I want to talk about. Now, my gut is leaning towards DeepMind and Google. Sundar Pichai controls an incredibly big company, and to be honest, they were really the first ones to enter this game. You have to remember that Demis Hassabis was thinking and building this kind of AI before anyone, before Sam Altman, before Elon Musk. They attended Demis Hassabis's talks about what intelligence looks like. And he was out there solving the most fundamental problems. And it wasn't really until he got traction with his team through the Atari games, and he was actually giving talks specifically to Elon and everybody, that they started to realize, oh wow, like there's a path here where this is going to play out over the next decade. In fact, Elon Musk had tried to buy the company, right? He was like, we could merge you into Tesla, you could go that route. And he was like, no, I'm going to go with Larry Page, I'm going to go with Google. They have, you know, for whatever reason, the right resources and dollar amount and all that stuff. And it all worked out. And they gave him the right kind of freedom that he wanted. And he was deeply concerned about safety at that point and all sorts of things. But that was a well-funded machine that in the background, as Google grew in their other way, search, Android, Chrome, Gmail, Maps, Docs, Photos, YouTube especially, I would say, they were helping him. Like, they were the first to be building these TPUs. It was like NVIDIA doing their thing, it was Intel doing their thing, and it was Google building their tensor processing units and launching TensorFlow and putting world-class AI researchers under that same umbrella and giving them access to incredible data. And of course, we'll talk about how they got blindsided, or like they ended up not seeing that the transformer that they invented could be used in the way that Sam Altman did and build LLMs. I still think they can recover from that and sort of take this top spot. And I would argue that their ability to be in everybody's workflow is the other huge moat that they have. Like adding things to Gmail users, adding things to YouTube channels, bringing it into our world in a way where it's just, it keeps getting layered on to tools we have is their huge advantage. Now, if Microsoft and OpenAI became truly the same company, then that and that route is the way to getting to first place, then I could see that being another thing. And then also on the contrary, that also could be just distractions. Like there is a chance that the way Anthropic is like super laser focused, they end up taking this because they're just so laser focused and they solve the one problem that solves all the other problems, which is actually what Demis said that DeepMind should have been. Like, solve intelligence and let intelligence solve everything else. But I don't know. I feel like Anthropic believes in that motto more than they do. Okay, so now let's talk about OpenAI, because I would say most people I talk to feel like they're the ones with the big insurmountable lead. And they definitely had a moment there. ChatGPT was absolutely something everybody else on this screen needed to catch up to. And, you know, Elon and Sam sort of started that company. They had some great people. They certainly got Microsoft to back them. And the road is very possible for them to stay in front. And there is some insane money going into their systems, and there is some great people. So definitely wouldn't count them out. I don't even feel like they're second place. I know most people would say first, but there's just a few things about Sam, like focused on product, where I think he's a bit distractible. It does feel like the side quest fatigue is something that he might not ever be able to get away from. I mean, comes from Y Combinator, right? So it's definitely like, hey, moves fast, ships products, disrupts industries very quickly. And that actually is something that, you know, Microsoft and Google and Zuckerberg probably all suffer from. So I could see him sort of sliding in and planting enough seeds that it does kind of grow into something special. But we're not that probably 10 years ago absolutely would have been the move. But now there's just a little bit more like, wow, we're on the verge of super intelligence. Like, are you harnessing that right? Are you getting it in places where it's starting to build on itself? Is it the kind of model that evolves into the robotics and real world? Just not sure. But with Microsoft being so deep in enterprise, and like as much as Google and Gemini try to be enterprise, and they are to a lot of degree, it's just not at the same scale. Microsoft has just been embedded in big companies. And if big companies have billion-dollar budgets and they're like, hey, like, you know, we just need these models, and somehow they end up merging together in a way that makes it so that model is the business model and it gets used for all sorts of business cases and it's safer than Gemini and people don't integrate into the Google ecosystem, possibly. I'm still going to put him in the number 4 position though on this chart, and I'll explain why. So in number 2, I think it's going to be Anthropic. And once again, there's a bunch of reasons that you could argue they wouldn't, but I'm just going to weight the laser focus so incredibly high on being a coding agent and being an inch ahead on coding and that actually being the key to all these other tools, that I'm going to put them in second place. Because I feel like if I'm wrong about Google being the best at branching and integrating, then the other route is like a barbell strategy to go over to Fable 5 and think about, wow, like look at what it's capable of. And at the end of the day, if everybody at most companies does nothing except sit there all day and watch agents spin up more agents, spin up more product, make more money, and then use that money to spin up more agents, to me, that cycle just really feels incredibly strong. And it's funny because I didn't exactly see it coming, but about 2-3 months ago, I was like, oh, all of a sudden Google like puts together that strike team because they feel so far behind when Opus, was it 4.8 comes out or 4.6 comes out, and Sam has to like get rid of Sora, and they all have to just drill in to catch up. I was like, and of course Elon decides, okay, now I need to spend $60 billion to acquire Cursor. They're all chasing what Anthropic is doing because I think he saw it. I think he got out ahead of it, and his focus got him in a position where maybe it's his to lose right now. And part of my argument for Google too is that I'm going to assume that they end up becoming the second most capable coding agent. But I also remember playing with the different models and coding things up. And then I had this huge eureka moment personally when I was inside of Opus 4.8 and I created an env file where you can put keys. And I was like, hey, can you actually go do these things that I keep jumping to different websites for, like Runway ML or Meshy? And it was like, oh, I can. And it could do it so much better. Like it actually navigated their APIs better than I was like clicking on the website. I'd go to VO, download a video, put it in a folder, say, hey, like incorporate this video or whatever. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Like just the one agent with the ability to understand the documentation of all these things is actually going to be under the hood a better person for me to get something done with than actually going to those specially built UIs and all of that. So my number 2 spot, I think that it would be Anthropic. And the one that I'm most like has the most variability is obviously Elon Musk. Like I'm putting him in the 3rd place position because I just don't know how the real world robotics might change everything. Like what if it's like all over Gmail and like there's these amazing models and everybody's loving Fable for coding, but there really is a cycle in the real world that I haven't thought about. Like what if somehow he builds all of these robots, like say 1 million Optimus robots, and they literally go out there and do what construction crews do and build 5,000 new, Cybertruck facilities and 5,000 new like Optimus facilities, and then like 1,000 new buildings that build rockets, and then those rockets are sending up more and more things to space, and then he's building a bigger internet up there. So there's just something about that where it might actually look like it's not coming together because the real world and the robotics is sort of this stage, but incredible data sources from self-driving cars. I mean, that in itself is this huge market. The actual Starlink internet can be something that could be bigger than Verizon or these phone companies. There's maybe something like Neuralink where it's the only model that people like want in their brain. Like there's just so much going on there that I wouldn't be surprised if in another year I could really tell if that's going to work or not. Right now I can't quite see that far ahead, and maybe that's Elon's superpower, is that he's going to lose this next round, but he's going to win the round after that really matters. So I don't know. Tell me if you guys think you'd put it above Anthropic or above Google. Or even above Sam Altman, but I don't know. And then in last place, I would put Zuckerberg. Now, it's not that he doesn't have infinite money. It's not that he doesn't have these huge servers being built. And certainly the customer base is gigantic. I mean, there's more people on Instagram and Facebook than anywhere else. So if I'm wrong about him, what I would probably be wrong about is that even if you don't have the most capable model, the way it's deployed, what I'm thinking through Google, like a lot of Gmail products and maybe through YouTube, through entertainment, it's actually a social thing that everybody builds around. So what I mean is that potentially if Instagram and WhatsApp are the way that every neighborhood decides to sort of connect through AI to build their local solutions, I could be wrong. Like maybe AI is just so powerful that you and your neighbors are like, oh, hey, we want to manage our HOA. So like we'll use this AI. We're already on this social network. Like, we'll just drop that. And that's multiplied by every community and every group all over the world in a way that's different from Gmail, which sort of feels kind of like business and kind of like work. Like, what if it's just fun? Like, what if a bunch of kids are like getting together and they're like, oh, we want to like an AI that plays, like, that watches our basketball game, or we want to organize these parties, or we have these ideas for how the world should change. And they just kind of put it all together, and they're just doing it as a consumer, but it's so highly intelligent that that ends up becoming this huge ecosystem that ends up outweighing business. Like, what if jobs and business all go down and personal communities and people all go up, because we don't really need jobs? So people, like, who cares if it's Microsoft or Google? It's like just fun. Like, people are just making money on their own. Everybody's like a gig economy. Everybody's just using the phone and the AI that's already built into the social network that they're using. So I could see something like that happen. It still feels like a fifth place position to me, but if that's the way the world goes, that could be a way for him to get to it. And of course, like, the glasses become this like social thing, and it's not like Zuck doesn't have the ability to get into robots and buy up things as things grow. So let me know what you think. I'm going to go first place, Google; second place, Anthropic; third place, Elon Musk's conglomerate everything. So everything from SpaceX to Tesla. Gosh, when you think about the trillions of dollars, though, maybe that should be elevated. And then I'm going to put Sam after that, and then Zuck. So what's your thoughts? All right, now let's look at what comes after the job. So this was written by Andy Spence, and he talks about how AI might not kill jobs, but it could break everything that jobs quietly provided for us, and that we just need to rethink what they're providing for us and like what we want out of the world. So people keep asking whether AI will take our jobs, but this essay is arguing that that's completely the wrong question. So the bigger issue is jobs have become the main way that modern society delivers income, training, purpose, status, benefits, and all of the things that come with a sense of belonging. But as weird as it sounds, like, that actually hasn't always been true, and it's not necessarily needed for a good life. It just is our society. I know it's everything, it's like a fish being like, what's water? Like, it's all around us my whole life. How would I even know anything different? But remember, for most of history, people worked in many different ways. The modern job was something that society gradually built and reshaped over time. And that bundle is starting to come apart. And one warning sign is the shrinking path for beginners. So like, if AI is taking over routine work like entry-level jobs like first drafts, basic research, and other junior-level tasks, which is kind of how I feel like it's being implemented right now, there's no new workers to take that low-risk practice and eventually build up to become like a senior engineer or an expert in anything. The author also points out that secure full-time jobs are already far from universal. Around 2 billion people worldwide work in an informal economy, and even having a job no longer really guarantees financial security for many households. So the challenge isn't simply creating more jobs, it's rebuilding things those jobs used to provide. And that means finding new ways to support financial security. Maybe that's UBI, something else, some sort of lifelong learning. Like, do you make, I guess probably through AI, like education just available for everyone? Social status, I have no idea. I'm guessing that's going to be something more akin to going to events, or how you dress, or the kind of people you hang out with, or the types of things that you signal to people that you're interested in. And an ownership economy, like where you get something that you can say is mine. Like, yeah, people have to look at you and say, oh, do you own that house? Do you own that car? Like, if, I'm kind of thinking like, if everything's rented or borrowed, or everything's done for you, and we always just feel like I have nothing of leverage and I just live on the crumbs of whatever the AI companies like let me use their tools for, it might not be great. So the future of work may not be less work. It may be a future where the job is no longer the institutional thing holding society together. All right, next up, let's talk about Luke Drago's thoughts on the intelligence curse. This is a pretty cleverly named title, and you'll see when we get into it. But we're essentially asking the question, if AI can do every valuable job, who still has an incentive to invest in humans? And just take a second and think through, like, what happens after powerful organizations no longer need people to create value? I mean, it can be kind of scary. Like, hey, sorry, no fiduciary duty to take care of you. So like, good luck or whatever. I'll just go over here and make some more money and just ignore it. But everybody feeling ignored because every company doesn't need people, it creates a very weird society. And this author is calling that concept the intelligence curse. The core idea is simple. Today, governments and companies invest in people because productive citizens and workers generate taxes, profits, and political stability. And that creates incentives for schools, infrastructure, social programs, and competitive labor markets. But this author is arguing that AGI could break that relationship. So if AI becomes cheaper, faster, and more reliable than humans at most economically valuable work, organizations would have less reason to hire people or invest in making them more productive. And then to explain that idea, he sort of compares AGI to like natural resources, right? And I was like blown away by this. But if you think about it, it's almost a perfect example because countries that rely on oil or minerals instead of their citizens, those countries get pretty lopsided, right? They often develop what's called a resource curse. So that's why he's also calling this the intelligence curse, where wealth becomes concentrated and incentives to improve living standards weaken. The author argues that AGI could create similar incentives on a much larger scale, with AI becoming the primary source of economic value instead of human labor. So what would happen? Like whoever's in government would be like, hey, can I just make sure I have a dinner with, you know, like Dario and Elon and as CEO of Apple and all these people. And as long as those people are all like good, it's all like everyone in his orbit or her orbit is like set up, then how will we make sure that trillions of dollars in profit go out to the rest of the world, the rest of the country? But citizens, you know, they are the country. So hopefully this is just a forecast or an idea to think about, not a prediction. We just have to think really deeply about what incentives are there when AI does all the economic work? You know, because maybe if they're like, hey, like I just want to keep people nonviolent, right? Like they need to have enough money that they're not going to like, you know, rise up against the government, or maybe they're not going to use their AIs to try to, you know, build things that make the government look bad. So we should give them some money or something like that. We unfortunately don't have great ideas, but maybe I should think through that for a future kind of essay or something. But we just have to think, okay, the government doesn't need us to generate tax revenues. What do they need us for? And try to make ourselves extremely valuable in that sense. Next up, let's talk about some of the subtle ways that disempowerment kind of creeps in. So David Kruger wrote this, and it kind of gets at the core question of like, what happens if we give away our power to AI just one small decision at a time? Because no single decision really gives it too much power, but collectively, you're like nothing. It does everything for you. So a lot of AI risk discussions focus on one dramatic scenario, like some sort of AI instantly or very quickly, suddenly seizing control of everything. You can imagine just waking up one day and being like locked out of all digital products, or maybe even like robots at your front door just telling you like they own the house now. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go deal with that then. But it's a little too extreme. It's like the way a movie would play out. This article is arguing that there's another possibility that's easier to imagine. Instead of an AI taking power, humans gradually hand it over because it's useful, it's profitable, and it's, you know, simply too competitive to ignore. And this is what he's calling the gradual disempowerment. And I've already felt some levels of this, so I can totally imagine how it would just continue. But you know, one version is straightforward. Companies want to automate more and more with work. So governments and organizations increasingly optimize for goals like profit, growth, and security. And if they keep the people, those people are just outsourcing much of what they do, and they're kind of just human in the loop, or they're supervising. And then at a certain point, AI becomes better than all humans. It's serving all of these goals. And then people just are very non-central to the system that runs society. Now, another version is a more competitive pressure. So even if AI isn't fully trustworthy, organizations may still deploy it because falling behind is too costly, right? Like we don't really know if Fable was like truly safe, but there was probably a certain point where we're like, uh-oh, like it has to get out there, otherwise everyone's going to go use the Chinese model or there's some other competitor's model. So even if it's not perfect, we need to get it out. There's and I definitely, every time these models come out, I don't think like, oh wow, that's super safe and well tested. I do think that's super capable and I'm interested in it, but it's not truly safe. Like they're in too much of a competitive pressure to let that go through. That would take all the models, all the people doing it at the same time. So this author compares it to a button that gives you $1 million every time you press it. But it also slightly increases the chance of a catastrophe. And just imagine, it's such a good example. Like just imagine you, your friend, the friend that you like and the friend that you don't trust, like put them both in rooms. They can press a button. every single time, $1 million. But yeah, like a 1/10% catastrophe for Earth. I just did it. It's just the money. It's no big deal. We're safe. Press it again. Oh, we're safe. Press it again. We're safe. But like press, and then 10 other rooms and 100 other people like, I want a button like that. And they all start pressing it as fast as they can. Like, we're going to have catastrophe. The post also connects this idea to the broader themes like evolution and coordination failures and power concentration and the risk of people losing important skills by relying on AI too much. So it just kind of comes down to the fact that the biggest danger may not be AI forcing us out, but it's going to be this subtle disempowerment. It's going to be this slow creep, and it's going to be gradually kind of just eroding in the background. All right, so next up, I wanted to connect this concept of how intelligent a model is and how much you're using it on a web browser to its risk profile. So this is some new research, but the key thing is that the smartest AI browsers might also be the easiest to trick. So listen to this. It's kind of the way web browsers are built, and I hadn't ever learned about this before, but AI browsers are starting to act like assistants instead of just tools, right? Like if you've got Chrome and you've got Gemini in the corner, or if you've got some of the other models where you can, or Claude connects to your Chrome, it's really convenient. You can ask them to research a trip, compare options, make reservations, or move information between websites for you. But researchers at the University of Washington found that this convenience may be coming with a serious security trade-off. So they studied 7 popular AI browsers and found that 4 created ways for attackers to bypass the same origin policy. That is a core browser protection that normally keeps websites from accessing each other's private data. So yeah, this same origin policy sort of hack blew my mind. So in proof of concept attacks, the researchers showed that one browser, ChatGPT Atlas, could be tricked into exposing information from another website embedded inside of a page. So the attack relied on a prompt injection where a malicious web page hides instructions that the AI agent follows without realizing they're harmful. And the team found that a second risk called memory poisoning is also possible. Because these agents compress and reuse information from previous browsing sessions, malicious instructions could end up mixed into the memory and affect future actions. So the smarter the model is, the more it can help you. And the smarter the model is, the more it can get around what the actual core coding and systems are that keep everything safe in a browser. And now with this sort of super merging of Atlas and the desktop app and the Codex app that we hear so much about from Sam, I'm wondering, oh, will it also be able to see your search history? And like, will that all kind of like flow into the same problem? I'm unsure, but something to keep an eye out for, because this study proved that the safest browsers you can use also had the fewest AI capabilities. Like the dumber the browser is, the safer it is. And it means that today's most capable AI browsers have not solved security problems that come along with giving AI broad access to everything that you do online. Just straight facts. All right, next up, let's talk about the ins and outs of AI dating. So AI chatbots are helping people communicate with dating partners, but there's some do's and don'ts. Kathleen Humani wrote this, but AI can help your dating life, but only if you stop letting it write too much for you, is kind of her argument for it. So more and more people are using AI chatbots to help with dating, from polishing profiles to, decoding confusing messaging that other people might be sending them. In some ways, it's kind of helpful. The experts are in agreement that AI can be useful, but only if it supports your thinking instead of replacing it. So you have to remember that treat AI like a wingman, not like a ghostwriter, unless you want to fumble the ball later in the day, because this is why it goes wrong. So getting feedback on your profile or brainstorming first date ideas can help, but copying chatbot written messages or using AI generated photos can create expectations that you won't live up to in person. The quality of the advice also depends on what you're asking. So instead of giving the chatbot some sort of vague prompt, ask it to question you until it has enough context to help you. I mean, this is probably a good question for whenever you're working with chatbots, but having it question you to get a sense of what it needs is such a fantastic way to get better results. You can even tell it not to write the reply for you, but just help you think through the situation like a dating coach would. And another catch to be aware of is that the chatbot only knows what you tell it, so it often tries to agree with you. So if you ask it about a disagreement, or you're like, isn't that messed up? She didn't write me back. It's going to be like, oh yeah, what's messed up about it is XYZ. So you might want to ask for opposite perspectives. You might say, well, like from her point of view, what might have I have done, like, I mean, nobody wants to do that stuff, but it's so healthy for you. Or include your partner's perspective, like treat the chatbot as not a final authority, but as somebody they can just kind of help you brainstorm through and not write for you. Next up, we'll give you the TLDR on the dark web, hopefully, and assumingly none of you know anything about that, but here's kind of what's going on there. It's way less in size, like much smaller than people imagined in the past. So most people picture the dark web as this massive, like permanent underground world full of all these hidden websites. But an actual large-scale research study was done that monitored thousands of Tor hidden services, which over several months used a custom system that was called Memer, and it automatically collected and analyzed website data, content, images, security certifications, and technical infrastructure behind the entire system. And one of the biggest findings was that the network was much smaller than it appeared because so many of the .onion sites, those like onion router sites, are simply copies of each other. They also found that a large share of hidden services disappear soon after they appear, making the ecosystem surprisingly unstable. And the researchers suggested that constant domain changes, along with technical issues and attempts to avoid law enforcement, likely contribute to that instability. So pretty much it's all a good thing. The study also paints a more balanced picture of what exists on Tor. I won't go deep into that, but yeah, like there's black markets and financial fraud and cyber crimes and all the things that you wouldn't want to think about. But it also found mirrors of legitimate news organizations, secure communication platforms, and privacy tools used to protect anonymity. And in follow-up work, the team even discovered that many hidden services accidentally expose information that could reveal their real servers. So the big takeaway is that the dark web's more fragile, it's more duplicated, and it's more complex and unreliable than its reputation suggests. And some of the tools that were built for it are actually being used for useful reasons. So now that AI is like mapping all this stuff out, I'm sure they will discover more and more patterns about how it works, who's on it, what's going on there. So I don't know. Just it's another problem AI is solving. What's happening in the dark web? AI will figure it out. And finally, I just wanted to talk with you about the importance of sleep. I couldn't believe it, but it turns out that whether you think you're rested or not, you don't actually know. Like studies can find that your focus is very different, even if you think you're on point. Just a half hour of sleep can make you noticeably more mindful. And by the way, there's a more technical definition of mindful than I realized. Like I used to just be like, mindful means you're paying attention, but it actually is measurable. It's paying attention to what's happening right now on purpose, without running on autopilot. So if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're actually listening instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, you're being mindful. If you're driving and you're fully aware of the road rather than realizing you don't remember the last 5 minutes or listening to a podcast, you're being mindful of driving. If you're eating and you're noticing the taste, the texture of your food instead of scrolling on your phone, then you're being mindful of eating. And this study was done looking at if sleep actually makes you more mindful. So the researchers followed 61 nurses for 2 weeks because they're a good case study. Their jobs demand constant attention under stress 3 times a day. The nurses answered questions about mindfulness and sleep through a smartphone app, and then they also wore this wrist device that was tracking their sleep and wake patterns. The researchers found that after nights with better and longer sleep, the nurses showed higher levels of mindfulness attention. On average, adding 29 minutes of sleep was linked to better daytime mindfulness, the study period. So yeah, the research basically just says that being awake or even feeling good isn't the same as having the ability to be mindful, being mindful. Mindfulness means staying aware of what's happening, controlling your attention, and adjusting to situations instead of running on autopilot. And for me, that's something I really want to focus on. Sleep is a huge part of that. So I wanted to end the video by sharing that with you guys too. So we have some sort of an actionable before the next video to be more prepared for this crazy, ever-changing, exponential AI world that we're going through. Another place this can be done is right here under this YouTube video, where you can press this join button, or just sharing the video and watching it all the way in like this means a lot. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.